presence within, and in the can harm me.
And now a bit softer in a speaking voice. I live protected
By God's infinite life.
light. Infinite light.
So long as I remain
So long as I remain
in the heart of it,
nothing and no one
can harm me. And now in a whisper, continuing to take it more deeply within, I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. And now silently repeating this affirmation at the point between the eyebrows, taking it deep into your superconscious. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. And now the prayer, listening to each word. I look to thee for my strength, Lord. Hold me closely in thy arms of love. Then, whatever happens in my life, I shall accept with joy. Om. We'll now do the reading from Rays of the One Light, the weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. This is week 18. Perfection is self-transcendence. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. We begin this week with a passage from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5. Love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. If ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the tax collectors the same? And if ye salute your what do ye more than others will? Be grateful for the pains you experience, for they are healing strokes of his love. Sometimes healing is effected only by strong measures, but his love for you is manifested in the very attempt to heal. Strive always to be impersonal, as though whatever happens to you were happening to someone else. Persecution gives us the supreme opportunity to deny the thought, this is happening to me, and to affirm our inner freedom from the thought of ego. Don't allow the negative perceptions of others to become your own self-definition. Seek God. This is the true goal of life, though how difficult to cling to in the midst of hatred, spite, and persecution. The Bhagavad Gita tells us in the 7th chapter, out of thousands, one strives for spiritual attainment, and out of many blessed true seekers who strive assiduously to reach me, one, perhaps, perceives me as I am. O truth seeker, Be among all those thousands who seeks the supreme goal. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om. Om. Om.
There is only God. Nay, God. Go out with joy. That's all there is. It's very simple, really, isn't it? It's the simplicity of life, isn't it? You know, you hear these amazing words and teachings and like, when will we get it? It's the battle of life. And do it with joy. I will start with a reading from Whispers of Eternity, and then I'll proceed on. So this is, O divine heart, I will hunt for thee in the forest of my soul. O divine heart, I ran after thee, equipped with the spears of selfish desire. Thou didst fly before me. I raced after thee, shouting prayers loudly, but my voice drove thee from me by the guests of my restlessness. The noise I made only frightened thee away. Stealthily then I crept up to thee and cast the dart of my concentration. Alas, my hand unsteadily shook, and thou didst bound away as thou didst so. However, thy hooves echoed. Without devotion, thou art a poor, poor marksman. With firm devotion then, holding fast the dart of meditation, I crept forward. The divine hoofbeats came stealing back, but I heard thee whisper, I am beyond thy mental dart, far beyond. At last, despairing, I entered the cave of celestial love, and there at last, lo, thou, the divine heart, comest willingly into my heart. Shanti, shanti, shanti. What a little lead on from last week. And for those that were here, we talked about the pendulum and of creation and how it's a vibration. And, you know, we are spending our world in this vibration, and it's the dark, the light, the happy, the joy. It's the duality of light. And we're here because we're sick of being on the pendulum, where the ups and downs. And we talked about coming higher and higher up the pendulum, which is kind of interesting. And this week is about perfection and the perfection of that. And it's kind of interesting. And it made me, not quite a dad joke, but I was laughing to myself as I was reading this. And I'm a surfer, and I often come down to the beach and have a surf. And every time I go to the beach, I get and look at the surf, and then I'm like, I've got to get out there. I've got to be there. I'm going to miss out. It's the biggest fear of FOMO that you'll ever have, this fear of missing out. Kalamali's mum, Gigi's voice comes in because she asked a question when she was here, and she goes, why do surfers always run to the beach? Why do they run to the surf? Like, they're already there. Is it because the sand's hot and there's all these reasons for being there? And so every time I'm running to the surf, I ponder this, and often it's literally just this fear of missing out. It's like, I've got to get that perfect wave. And the whole time you're in the surf, you're like, no, this next one's going to be perfect. It's going to be perfect. This wave will be perfect. And you'll hear lots of partners of surfers have this frustration that,
Not me, though.
No, not at all. That surfers are often late getting out of the surf. And, you know, there's often this superstition that when we're in the surf, we always say last wave, but if you say last wave, you know that last wave will never come. It's like you'll be out there and you're out there and you're like, oh no, I said I'd be in it, you know, 1:30, and it's now 1:45, and so you're always running late. But it's in this search for perfection. And so if you think of life and what we do, we're always seeking perfection outwardly, aren't we? Whether it's through work or painting or artists, and you think, well, once I've reached perfection, what happens? You know, if you think of even sports people thinking, I'm going to break that 2-minute mile, I'm going to break that, you know, whatever it is, we're going to beat the record, we're going to have no goals against us, whatever it is, we're always seeking perfection, but it's never really attainable. And it's kind of an interesting thing in life, is it, that anything outward, there's kind of nothing really attainable. Like, kind of once you're there, like, what happens? It's like, well, I've perfected the kind of painting that I like, or that's, you know, and then it's like, well, what do I do now? Do I perfect being an accountant, or do I perfect being an engineer, or, you know? And it's kind of when you start delving into this world, what does perfection mean? And it's a really beautiful question, because what are we trying to perfect? Why are we all here? What is that perfection that we need to do? And realistically, what holds us back from perfection? So, you know, if you think about, you know, even 100 years ago, how fast we used to run or how fast we used to measure, what held us back? And it's the same thing that holds us back in this perfectional divine journey back to creation. And often it is two things: self-limitation and fear. It's the fear of the unknown and that self-limiting thought in all that we do. And it's kind of an amazing story, because Yogananda, he tells this story of how, you know, he was with a group of disciples and they were all asking about how many people became realized who you know, merged back with the infinite, and talked about all these saints that were met throughout Autobiography for Yogi. And it was kind of an interesting thing, because to be realized or to be an avatar, you have to have merged back with the infinite, and you come back with a certain mission to accomplish. And so there were all these amazing saints that still weren't perfected. But one of the disciples asked Yogananda, he said, well, when do they become perfected? Like, if they've already reached the infinite, like, when do they? And he said, oh, it's just as simple as them saying, I want to merge back with you. And one of the disciples of Yogananda, Boone, said, well, so you're telling me that if I just said that I'm perfected and want to merge back? And Yogananda said, yes. But he said, just in the words of yourself, you've already self-limited. You've already been years and lifetimes of this self-doubt, this self-limitation. So self-realization has a couple of messages here, doesn't it? It's self-realizing that we are one. We are one with the infinite. And it's that whole image of the onion. If you peel away an onion and you keep peeling and keep peeling and keep peeling, there is ultimately nothingness. So that becomes the goal of life, doesn't it? You know, we have all these limiting factors, these beliefs, these doubts, these things that we've created that we've kind of got to get through. There's a beautiful story of that in relation to what does that mean. And during that discussion that Yogananda had, he was talking to one of the disciples, because they said, well, you can say that you are God. And Yogananda's like, no, I'm not. And they had this debate around, well, but if you're one with the infinite, then you are God. And Yogananda would never actually say that I'm one with God. And if you think about the ocean, the wave can never say that they are a part of the ocean, but they're separate from the ocean. So God created separateness for his own entertainment. Doesn't mean that you aren't God, but there's a difference between the correlation of the two. But it's realizing, self-realization, realizing that you're a part of that. And if you think about the reading that we just spoke, that was just read, it talks about that. It's that knowing that you're a part of creation, seeing God in all things. And you'll hear that beautiful prayer that, we want to see God in all things. We want to know that we are a part of that. And there's a story by Yogi Ranaya, I think I've said that correctly, who was Yogananda. If you remember the story where Yogananda went back and sat with this saint, and he just said, if I'd spent just a little bit more time with him, I would never have come back to America. There was so much bliss with this saint. And this saint, and Swami Kriyananda also went and saw the same saint, but there's this story that he tells of this disciple, or he was a saint himself, Nandev. And Nandev would go to the temple, and he had so much devotion that Krishna used to come and speak to him. And so, of course, people understood that he had this direct line with Krishna. And Krishna would, talk and guide and do these things. So he had this group of disciples. But within this town, there was also another great saint who was a potter. And a potter worked with clay. And anyway, they were talking together. They were in doing a discourse, and they were discussing. And this potter ended up, who was divinely inspired, would go around and slap all the audience, the people, the devotees that were there, and slap them. Because as a potter, the way you tell if the clay is good is you tap it, and then you can tell if there's an underlying crack or a fault within it. And so we ran and slapped all these devotees, and they kind of recognised, well, this is a great saint. There must be something behind this. He's divinely inspired. And then he got to this Nandev and slapped him. And indignantly, Nandev went, what? You just slapped me in front of my devotees. We're of equal, And the potter said, well, I believe there's a crack in this pot. And Nandev was like really taken back by it. And again, could you imagine? I'm just thinking in my own mind how indignant I would be. And there he goes, steps in, and it's like, right, you did this in front of me. And well, afterwards, Nandev went back to the temple and spoke to Krishna and said, but divine Krishna, what, about thy feet, I would never want, there is nothing that I wouldn't do for thee. What is, what's happening? And Krishna said, you need a guru. And Nandev said, but I've got direct contact with you. And Krishna said, yes, I can come to you in visions, but I can't, with the free will that I've given you, I can't bring you out of this. You need a guru that has direct contact with me to be able to show you your faults to bring you back to me. And he said, okay, well, send me a guru. And he said, well, I'll send you a guru, and the guru that I send you might be a little quirky, I think, somewhere along those lines. And he told him where the village was and where this guru was, and he was there, and he's wandering around the village, and everyone he asked went, oh, you sure that's the person that you're seeking? He's the crazy man or the insane man at the temple. You'll find him there. And he goes to the temple, and there's this old man laying around on the floor of the temple, and he's like, oh, this must be him. I think this is the one. And then he was stopped in his tracks, because he was this old man laying on the temple grounds, but he had his feet on a Shiva lingam.
Ooh.
And this Nandev's like, whoa, indignantly went up to this man and said, hey, what are you doing? You take this is just disgraceful. Take your feet off. And the old man kind of opened his eyes. He said, oh, I would love to. He said, but I'm old and I can't move. Would you mind helping me move my feet off this? I'm happy to have them placed where you need to. And so Nandev, with the respect, lifted his feet up and just about to place them down on a clean piece of floor, but underneath his foot then was a Shiva lingam. So he was like, oh, hold on, what's going on here? So he picked him up, and then he went to place them down on another clean piece of floor, and there was another Shiva lingam underneath. And Nandev recognized then, he said, wow, I understand now the message, Guru, that you've given me. And the Guru sort of sat there and he said, yes, God is in all things, but God is also within you. And the lesson behind this. And by then he just touched him on the chest and gave him full insight, full freedom by touching him on the chest. And he spent months and months and months traveling the world because he could see God in all things. But he could only see God in all things because he recognized that God was within in himself. And he went around and eventually came back to the village that he used to visit, the temple with Krishna. And he came in there and Krishna said, I've missed you. He said, you haven't been around for months and months and months, with a little chuckle. And the Nandev said, yes. He said, I see this now. He said, why would I come back to just this temple when I can see you in all things and all places? And was out and about. And it's such an inspiring story that, yes, we can sit, but we have to recognize that we are that. We have to have faith. And just to finish off that story or the chapter, I'm just going to read from the New Path. And if you're interested in it, the chapter is called I Am the Spirit, I Am Spirit. And it's essentially about this story of Nandev, but it's also about finding spirit within. And the last if you want God, Master used to say, go after him. It takes great determination and steadfast, deep effort. And remember, the minutes are more important than the years. A great aid on the path, however, is the constant thought, I am free already. And with this counsel, and I challenge everyone this week to do what Yogananda asked us all to do. He said, memorize my poem, Samadhi. He once told us, he said, repeat it daily. Visualize yourself in that infinite state. Identify yourself with it. For that alone is what you already are. What a beautiful challenge that we have this week. Let's every day read Samadhi and try and recognize, we are that. And these are words from an avatar. Visualize yourself in that infinite state. Identify yourself with it, for that alone is what you really are. Joy to you.
Thank you. I was reflecting on the affirmation and the reading for the week and the connection between them, which is courage, and perfection is self-transcendence. And why courage? Why courage to transcend the self? And how does courage, affirming courage, help us in that? And what came to mind was Hanuman, who is he's almost like the quality ideal for what a devotee with courage can do when they become limitless in their love for God. And when you look at the root of courage, it's really interesting because I like to look at the etymology of words. And when we say courage, okay, we just think of someone brave. But courage also at the root has to do with being so openly loving. It's like the image of Hanuman, where you're ripping open your heart to reveal love, pure love, without any inhibition, fear, anything. And so when we do that in the world, whenever anything happens to us, that's that moment where we rise above with love. That's a cute little rise above with love to meet the challenge in front of us, or the moment. We're meeting our moment with love. So when you get a phone call that's bad news, when you get told at work you did something wrong, when your child is like, I don't want to go to bed, or I don't know, fighting with you, meeting the moment with love, however that might manifest, is taking a step back to be in that impersonal space where we're actually not thinking of ourselves. It's not, this happened to me. It's, this is happening without any person. So that's that impersonal love, and becoming that observer so that we can transcend that moment and come into life, which is the dream play that we always forget, is actually it's like a learning playground where we can project through the chakras into the moment something that we need to grow and learn to love again God purely. So instead of, you know, facing the moment with a sense of littleness, we're transcending to be brave, to be completely giving in our love, that God has given us that moment, and accepting it as a gift. And that, you know, when Hanuman had to be brave and go through the challenges and any suffering to leap the farthest distance that a person could have ever thought was possible, it was because he was motivated by so much love, not for himself as a single thought, that he could be limitless and go the greatest of distances to be reunited. And so that story is really the story of each of us. And so when you look at this week's affirmation, I look to thee for my strength. Hold me closely in thy arms of love. Then whatever happens in my life, I shall accept with joy. And it's interesting because if we were to think of the most courageous person in the world, their love is so great, it is so fathomless, the depths of that love, that they're willing to face anything, and with complete openness. And so that's the, like, if we, as we do Samadhi and as we go out into our week, if we do it with that sense of, I am courageous, I live protected, and knowing that no matter what is occurring in our life, if we continue to be open, receptive, and the observer, so experiencing it all just behind the veil, that moment of isness before the I does become a part of the situation, that brings a great peace, but it also brings that sense of joy. And then from there, we can continue to move through this world less and less with fear and instead with love. And so the simplicity of that is where we're all heading. And so we just need to do everything we can to remember, which is what you really shared a lot about, is it's that moment of remembering and going beyond anything that keeps us from this inner piece of unity. And so when we go out into our week, into our day, continuing to practice Samadhi, memorize Samadhi if you haven't, that's a really good challenge for our whole Sangha, really. But as you go into each moment that life presents you, see it as this little gift, this little present from God, no matter how challenging it is always for your greater good, and it's for that journey to remember and to be moving love, which is bliss in motion is love. So it's a really wonderful thing to be reminded of as you go into life and continue to face your challenges. So we thank you for being with us today, and we will play you now a little song. It's very much about courage. I'm just typing it in because I have to pull it up for us. It's Brave Were the People.